Here I show how I UV map and texture painted my tree. I kind of experimented with a couple of different methods just because I wasn't 100% sure what was going to be the best method to do this, to UV map this tree, and I kind of did some research. I watched some videos of some people in how to do UV mapping. I found one that was very interesting, that was how to try to UV map section by section something that is high poly or that is a little bit more of a complex structure, and it was basically about selecting section by section and unwrapping it on its own and hide every section as you go. So that's kind of like you can see me doing right now. I kind of struggle a little bit at the beginning, thinking, well, should I UV map it this way? Should I UV map it this other way? Maybe I should have these two selected now as they're in the same phase, kind of, and try to turn it around and then do the other phases. But quite soon into the process, I realized that because I had so many little small phases, I was actually leaving a couple of small vertices and phases there on their own, and that it was not gonna be the method I was gonna end up using. But I still wanted to finish doing it just to see where it was gonna take me and how it would look and what end result it would do, so that I could better understand how I could use this UV method of unwrapping in the future. And it ended up kind of being a little bit hard on the computer. I guess it is because you're taking all of these little vertices and faces all the time, and the computer just having to do too much work just to separate so many little individual faces instead of doing just a simple cut throughout the mesh. So eventually that was all the reason why I also realized, even though I knew already this is not going to be the method that I'm going to be using, it's not going to be efficient enough for me. But I did thought that something that has less faces, maybe if you're doing a human body or something that is not low poly but maybe not as high poly as this, it would be quite useful, because as I'm sure you can see, I was certainly struggling to be able to select every single part of the tree, even though I wasn't doing that much of bad selections. And it was gonna be an issue when it came to UV painting if I had too many parts overlapping each other, because then you can start getting a spottage of painter. And for something like this tree that only has one base color and then another color for the detail, that's not that much of a big deal. It's not really a problem. But when you're trying to UV paint, texture paint something that is more complex and that is more detailed, something like that could really ruin your final result. It could really end up being something quite damaging to your project, because you end up getting paint when you don't want it, and it can just look dirty and messy. But I still wanted to try, so I did. I did charge John to try and doing it. Maybe I might have spent an hour doing the selections and making sure that everything is as pristine as possible, which I knew wasn't going to be anyway. But I did find the method interesting, and it helped me understand a lot about UV mapping and UV unwrapping. Things that, even though we have seen UV unwrapping in class, were things that I have not necessarily understand in a different way other than the one it had been explained in class. But I liked the fact that I actually managed to explore, and once I had actually finished selecting the whole tree and I did the whole UV unwrap of it, it wasn't great, just like I have predicted. It wasn't great. I wasn't really thinking that it was something that I was going to be able to use. And also, excuse the video, a little bit of the video from the class of that day. I don't know what that just filtrated into there, but it was also being quite hard on my computer as well. So maybe if you have a more powerful computer and not as much of a high poly model, it would be better to use this mode of UV unwrapping. So I end up going back to a fresh file of the backup of my tree to do the other UV unwrapping method that I thought was gonna work, that was actually much more simple. That is just do the smart UV unwrap that Blender has on it, because I knew it would give me a much more quicker and faster UV unwrap that I will be able to use. And as you can see here, like when I went to texture paint is actually recognizing the tree, which is good. And on the left there, I just made the UV map a little bit larger so that parts of the model weren't really overlapping that much into each other. And something very important about texture mapping is always you have to remember that you have to add a new material and add a image texture, and remember to add your UV map as the image texture so that the object and the UV map will be connected in order to be able to paint it. And so here you can basically just see that I was basically just doing that, painting the tree, doing some detail on it, and just trying to be satisfied with the way it looked until I was happy with it.